15th meeting of the Disarmament and International Security Committee, the first committee, is called to order. Distinguished delegates, the committee will continue this afternoon with thematic discussions on specific subjects and the introduction and consideration of draft resolutions and decisions submitted under all disarmament and international security agenda items 88 to 105. We will first conclude our consideration of the conventional weapons cluster and thereafter take up the cluster on the disarmament machinery. Members are kindly requested to observe the time limits of 5 minutes when speaking in the national capacity and 7 minutes when speaking on behalf of a group. We will now listen to the remaining speakers on the list for the conventional weapons cluster, starting with the distinguished representative of Somalia. You have the floor, please.
Mr. Chair, since this is the first time my delegation is taking the floor, let me warmly congratulate you and the members of the Bureau on your election on the presidency of the First Committee. Mr. Chairman, Somalia fully associates itself with the statements delivered by Indonesia on behalf of the Non-Alignment Movement, Nigeria on behalf of the Africa Group, and Egypt on behalf of the Arab Group. I would like to highlight a few priority issues for Somalia. Somalia reinforces the notion that small arms and light weapons are the true weapons of mass destruction. It is apparent that these are still the weapons that kill and maim shocking numbers of civilians worldwide. They continue to be catastrophic for peace and security, as well as for development prospects, hindering economic and social progress and opportunities for the better quality of life, particularly for those in greatest need. Sadly, developing countries bear the brunt of the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons, and they are the primary recipient of a high volume of the international arms transfer agreements. Many of these countries are the preferred customer for arms sales, with little or no concern to the threatening impact on regional security and stability. The consequences is a cycle of regional arms races, predominantly in volatile parts of the world, inflicting confusion, chaos, and mayhem on civilian population. Mr. Chairman, Somalia reiterates that the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons is an aggravating source in armed violence and that it continues to cause detrimental humanitarian and social economic consequences. Somalia believes preventing illicit trade in small arms and light weapons should be given attention at the international, regional, and sub-regional levels in an inclusive and integrated manner. This illicit activity signifies a constant and major concern for the international community because it is the factor that continues to nourish terrorism and organized crime. In this respect, Somalia continues to fight against the growing scourge of terrorism. Mr. Chairman, Somalia values the extensive efforts made with respect to addressing the subject of illicit trade in small arms and light weapons. Ever since the Bamako Declaration 2000, the African Union Constitutive Act on the Protocol on the Establishment of the Peace and Security Council of the AU 2002, and the Solemn Declaration on a Common African Defense and Security Policy in Sirte 2004. In addition to the affirmations are the Nairobi Protocol efforts in the framework of SINSAD and other relevant sub-regional initiatives aimed at dealing with the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons in Africa. Somalia is the 97th state party to the Convention on Cluster Munitions. An instrument of ratification was deposited with the Secretary General of the United Nations at the UN headquarters in New York this year. Somalia's determination to join the convention was informed by two major reasons. First, cluster munitions have wide area effects and are unable to distinguish between civilians and combatants. Secondly, the use of cluster munitions leave behind a large number of dangerous unexploded ordnance. Such remnants kill and injure civilians, obstruct economic and social development, and have other severe consequences that persist for years and decades after use. Somalia reiterates the United Nations Programme of Action for the Prevention, Control, and Elimination of Illegal Trade in Small Arms and Light Weapons, and the international tracing instruments are particularly of the highest significance. We carry on highlighting the importance of their effective implementation. We also hope to emphasize that the international cooperation and assistance is necessary in the implementation of these instruments. Mr. Chairman, the prevention of human suffering remains at the center of the issue. UN Security Council Resolution 1325/2000 was the first to address the imbalance and the unique impact of armed conflict on women. Since then, the international knowledge and response to the gender application of weapons, armed violence, and armed conflict has progressed further. However, we recognize that more needs to be done. The gender implications of certain forms of weapons involving conventional weapons are problems that warrant more vigilance and focus in research and in the political debate. Thus, it is necessary to have a gender vantage point which should be integrated in all disarmament and arms control efforts. The equal commitment of women, men, and all stages and levels of decision-making should be encouraged. Mr. Chairman, in conclusion, while regulating conventional weapons and eradicating illicit stem of small arms and light weapons is important, durable solution can only be achieved through addressing the root causes of conflict and instability. Global spending on conventional weapons has increased tremendously. On the contrary, the budget of the organization created to prevent succeeding generations from the scourge of war, the United Nations, is less than 3% of the world's military expenditure. Getting this balance right will go a long way in reducing the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons. Thank you very much, sir.
I thank the distinguished representative of Somalia for his statement and his kind words addressed to the chair and the members of the Bureau.